How do we navigate things like cultural trends, current world events, and disagreement in church? Honest Conversations is a deeper dive into some of your important questions that we don't always have time to cover in a Sunday morning service. Ready to dive in? Let's join Andrew and Brooke for today's Honest Conversation.
Welcome back to Honest Conversations with my pastor. What episode are we on?
I don't know.
Three, four?
This is the best one, though.
Yeah.
We're on the best one.
So in this episode, we have some leftover questions from listeners that we're kind of going to ping Andrew with rapid fire. But first, in a break, we started talking about an interesting conversation. Who wants to?
No, Heather brought it up,
Okay.
and you said there's been something in the back of your mind that you wanted to make sure we talked about, and I think you should just start there.
Okay.
Great. Yeah. So there was a question about I have family who essentially it comes across like they forced their kid into transgenderism. What do I do? And I just had this linger in the back of my mind. Like, what we do is we call out like the deeper identities that we see in, like, because God has gifted us all. We all image him in different ways. So call out the ways that you see people image God. And doing that regularly is like that builds identity, and that builds yes, like I am, like I do have these characteristics of the Father because I am made in his image. And so like I think that breaks like, and those are things that regardless of like your gender or sexuality and how those are presenting and all of those things, like you are made in the image of God. So calling out those things, like that hits everyone's heart in a way that's like, we all need that. And it starts to build that secure foundation of like, no, like this is who I am. Like, and I'm this way because of God, like he made me this way. And and like those are the things that I think start to get like, it's like, no, like the encouragement of God does make my heart feel joy. It does make my heart feel these things. And I think it starts to wake us up in ways that that often get like numb or fall asleep or are muted or just like are like incapable of feeling because we're constantly in that fight or flight. But it like it helps us feel safe. It helps us know who we are, and it helps to like build that relationship, because someone who encourages me, it's like, oh my gosh, like I feel so connected to them, and I feel like we have like, I don't know, it just builds so much relational equity too, because it's like you're calling out who I am. You see past the brokenness, you see past all of these things, and you see to the true image of God that I bear, and like the true intention for like what my heart is like.
Wow. Yeah, I mean the root of most sin is who am I? And I'm trying to deal with that.
Yeah.
And that's true about this as well. And I think that that's so good. And I think what you're hitting on is really encouraging us in what our role can be and what our responsibility can be in people's lives. And also understanding like this isn't a guarantee for an outcome. I just want to keep coming back to that because we want the best for people because we love people. But that can turn into like, I have to then force the best to happen. And if I do the right thing, then the right thing will happen, you know? And it's like, we have to let go of that and be free to understand like my role is to call out, I'm an ambassador for Christ, you know? And that's like, God has made this person in his image. We all need encouragement. We all need identity. And so I'm not going to get overly distracted by my own shock or emotion on what's coming to the surface. I do want to build you up, especially in children, especially in anybody. Like there is, hearing the voice of God does make us come alive, and it does build us up. And I think that that's so rich and really taps into what I'm trying to encourage all of us. And like, we're talking to our church here. Like our church is really good at loving people.
Yeah.
And it's like, to what you're saying, it's like, oh, guys, you're already all really good at this stuff, you know? I love that. I'm so glad you shared that. I think you were going to,
Oh, well, yeah, and I think, too, like when in Matthew 15, Jesus even says, like, out of the heart come, and then lists all of these things. Yes. And so we need to speak to the heart. Like the enemy doesn't speak to the hand and say, hand, do this. He speaks to the heart because the heart controls the hand. The heart controls the eye and whatever. And so we're speaking to the heart, too, and saying, like, no, like you are this. and really and getting to the root, getting to the source, and getting to like what controls the rest of the like what comes downstream.
Yeah, so good.
Well, and Heather was mentioning too about just the influence of affirmation, and I had a question. I'll be honest. I was like, I'm not going to ask this on the podcast, but here we are.
We try not to step on toes. So.
Well, we try. But I said, Heather, do you think that there is something about a man's affirmation? Women are so gifted at encouragement naturally, I think, in their nurturing, and this is not to take away any affirmations from women. Maybe it's because it's more rare that it feels like there is an added weight on it. But what do you, and you were like, yes, absolutely. And I was like, thank goodness. Like, I thought I was just weird. But like, there is something there. Let's dig into this.
Yeah. I mean, first thing that comes to mind is just like my own experience with it. I think I've noticed in my own heart, there's almost like that longing for that like masculine affirmation of who, I don't know, there's something that my heart longs for. And every time that someone who has been like a spiritual father has spoken that, it has landed in a way that has met something just a little deeper. And I don't know how to more specifically put it to words, but it has, and there is that aspect, like, and affirmation from women has hit something else, but there's something that hits the deeper identity for me where I'm like, yeah, like my heart needed that. And it's almost like I know there is like protection and something here so I can rest a little bit. And I feel my heart respond to those things. And I see how even the deficits of that in my own upbringing, like when it addresses those in such a rich way where I've noticed myself, like even physically, I'm like, I can like feel myself relax a little bit.
What do you think is behind this, Andrew?
God. I think there's the design. I mean, it's everything we've been talking about this whole year. It's like men put order to things. And so there's an anointing on men just because they're men to put order. So for what we're talking about is identity, to plant the identity. And then there's an anointing on women to nurture that into fullness and bring that life to life. And it is what it is. And that's amazing. I mean, it's like.
Why do you think, do you think men feel a little bit hesitant to speak specifically maybe even into women's lives or to affirm, obviously for obvious reasons? And what is your advice to them, whether to continue to kind of stay on the outskirts of that or to dive in?
It's a great question. It reminds me of, I'm not skirting that, and we may come back to it specifically, but what I was going to ask you about, Heather, and related to all this, that I think I'm interested to see how your answer interacts with this question.
He wants you to answer the question.
Yeah, this is my creative way of doing it. No, so we were talking about all this on the phone one time. I think I was getting ready to preach on this in some way, like a couple of years ago. And you commented to me that the most significant thing that the most significant thing for you that I had done was spoken to men about being men.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I have been fascinated about that ever since. And I wondered if you could speak to that, because I think it does relate to your question that there is something about when men and fathers say something, but what you're saying, and I think calling out, which I think we know to be true, and I'm interested to just hear you tease that out, is that there's something that happens when men are something.
Honestly, I think I need to let the gears turn a little bit. I don't know because I remember having that conversation, and I remember the times that you have kind of had those like calls to men to I don't know, like to step into what God is offering. It's like there's something about that happening that then allows women to be women because, and I think there's an aspect of, in an attempt to nurture and things, like women will almost like overfunction, and to know that it's like, wow, like I don't have to do that. But then also like there is something, I think for my heart, especially about like the protection of it, and there's like this natural, like, I don't want to have to lead, and that's okay. I want to follow good leadership. And that feels wrong to say. It feels weird to say, but when I'm being honest with myself and with my heart, I want to have, like, there is part of me that's like, no, I want to follow, and like, I want to follow someone who is confident in where they're going. And whether that's like, and like, even just in like a church, it's like, no, I want to know that like, I will support and like do what I need to do, but like, I don't want to be the point person. And I think that's part of how I'm wired. And when the role of the point person is filled by someone who is supposed to be filling that, it's like, no, that's great. That's what's supposed to happen. And it allows other things to kind of fall into their place. I don't know if that answers your question.
That was really great. And I really appreciate you sharing that. It was really vulnerable, but really well said, powerful. What's your take on that?
I think that years ago, I started going really deep into women in leadership in the church and studied it for a long time, read a lot of books. And that's a whole other conversation. However, where I landed with it was not even the answer, it was my motivation. Why was I going there? And I had to realize, this was years ago, but I had to realize that there was something in my heart longing where I was seeing men being raised up and encouraged, and women were left to their Bible studies. And what I realized in my heart was like, I was longing for that encouragement, for that raising up, for that word spoken into your life by a man. And it kind of flipped everything on its head. And I'm like, why? Like, what's missing? Like, why isn't that happening? Like, why are, I mean, you're a male, you're going to be, like, put on the fast track and,
Yeah.
But it's really more about the heart. And it's about, am I seen? Am I known? Am I valued? And I think that for some reason, like we're talking about, like coming from a man means a significant amount. So does that mean then, is that a call to men to like, hey, just be aware of what you hold, and the ability that you have to speak into people's lives. And obviously if there's other issues at play, like I'm not saying like, go where you're not comfortable and start, affirming every woman, but is it worth it to
You're
almost
so beautiful.
True.
Just go tell everybody that. That's a great idea.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I couldn't help
Not what we're saying. But yeah, like is it worth putting that out there for men to say, hey, just know this? Because I guarantee if I would go and say that to Cole, he would have been like, what? Really?
Oh yeah.
Really? You're not answering.
I love this. It's so good. I love it. And one thing it makes me think about is the pronoun conversation we just had. And we were saying there's kind of conscience difference and even some personality difference, some role difference. I'm curious. I'm like, I wonder if there's some gender difference in there that for me, I was like, I'm not doing that. I wonder if any, and if so, how much of, not to say every man needs to think like me. I'm just thinking out loud, frankly, just like honest conversation, like, I wonder what of that is some of just the man in me that's like, I am here to bring order to things and that's out of order and I'm not doing that. Not in comparison
what's out
to
of
anything.
order? Encouraging?
Sorry. No, the whole pronoun conversation we were having. That's what I was talking about. So like, I was saying like, I'm not going to use a preferred pronoun. I want, if it's like, I have a responsibility to
order.
Like,
yeah.
there's a way this goes, you know? And what I heard both of you coming from was like a same end point, same goal. We're all aiming at the same thing, but a different angle of like, I'm after a relationship. I'm going to care for you and what you want. And we're going to, you know, I don't want to make a caricature of anything. Maybe I shouldn't even be saying this out loud. I'm literally just talking out loud in my thoughts. Like, that's just interesting to me. I don't think that there's any ability to actually parse it out. It was just a thought. So there was that thought. You're welcome.
One other thing that comes to mind, even with the conversation about like affirmations from men, it's like, I think it's so encouraging when there is and this I think is partly coming from the lens of my own woundedness, but when the encouragement comes from a man and it's like, I see your heart, the ability to speak that language. Mm-hmm. I know, like, it is like kind of what you said, Brooke, like women are gifted in that. It's just, we see, like, we talk about those things so much more that I think it does carry a lot more weight of like, I see your heart. I can speak the language of your heart, and I can speak identity into your heart because I know the language of the heart. And I'm like, there's something about that, and just knowing that knowing that we can get there, and knowing that that men like that exist is so like healing, because I'm like, there's a lot of baggage there. And so to hear that, and I think that's even with like the gender conversation and how to like I just imagine like youth groups, and there's like people are trying to figure out who they are. And so to be like, no, like I can give you this biblical, healthy view of masculinity, see your heart, call you out for who you are. I'm like, that's so powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
So powerful.
Totally. Yeah, I love this. I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. I think it's like I said, it's like, it's just men are real and women are real. Mm-hmm. And it's a thing, and it's from God, and that's so cool. And we taste God when men are men and women are women, and it makes everybody better when men are men and women are women. And I think, you know, what I want to hear men, or what I want men to hear in all of this is, first of all, that like you are a man and it matters, and that's awesome. And the world needs you to be a man. And so let's be men. And before you even worry about what do you run around saying, you know, be that man, be that good man. Because there's, to Heather, what you were saying and what I've thought about for these couple of years as I've thought about that. And like, there's something so anointed, and women are anointed too, but we're talking about men, you know, right. You know, it's like, man is so anointed that just me standing on a stage talking about what a man is brings identity to women. Mm-hmm. Like, just painting the picture, let alone being that guy or having a room full of those guys. There's something about just you being the man you need to be that does it does the first measure of all of this bringing of order, giving of identity. And then depending on roles and situations and relationships, you are then faithful, because you're a good man, to step into those moments as you are appointed and required. Whether you're a father or a friend, you need to be that father, or you need to be that friend. And we can't parse out every hypothetical, you know, but the foundation of it is you be that man. And so again, it comes back to build the home. It's like, well, that's why we talked about men first, and men being men. And then when men are men, women can be women. And then you can't be the husband that you are supposed to be if you're not the man you're supposed to be. It's the foundation, you know. Yeah. Women, you can't be that wife if you're not that girl, you know. And same for father and mother, you know. So it's this foundational thing. Everything starts with like, you be that man, and when you are that man, you will then be the man you need to be in different situations when you're in those situations, because that's who you are. And it matters, and it's awesome, and you can be confident in that.
And it speaks to a larger issue of affirmation, I think, too, regardless of men and women. I just, keep getting this word insecurity, and I just feel like we are not walking out certain gifts of encouragement because we are insecure of how they will land, who we feel like we're supposed to give them to, A, B, C, D, E. And I just feel like this might be a call to our church. We are so good at loving people, but maybe this is a call for even more encouragement, stepping into, places where we're like, oh my gosh, like I don't think I'd feel comfortable with that, knowing that you cannot go wrong when you are encouraging. Like there is not a wrong word you can give if you are using scripture and encouraging your brother or sister. And man, it might make all the difference for that person that day or whatever. So
I'd want to say to that, I agree, and also I think things can go wrong. Like things can get weird, especially.
Are you talking about like with
encouragement, gender stuff?
Oh,
like,
okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like.
Well, that's what I was asking before.
Yeah, right.
Like,
yes.
That
right.
you never
okay,
really answered.
Here we are. We're back.
Okay.
So Heather, what do you think?
And we deflect again.
Yes, exactly. So
because it is a real thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. So I think that's why I was saying I want men to hear, whoever you are, man, listening to this, preoccupation number one is be that man and know that your ripple is bigger than you think it is. Like something happens when a good man walks into a room. And you're that guy. So be that guy. And that's awesome. So there's that, And then that's why I think we have to, I don't know that we, in our break, you said, don't be weird about it. Heather, I think that's a good answer, actually. Seriously, though, it's like, don't be weird.
Yeah.
That can get weird. So let's not be weird. Let's work that out together.
It's like the balance of don't be weird, but don't be afraid.
Yeah.
And I think there's some sort of thing to terse out there, but yeah.
Right.
Don't be weird, don't be afraid.
There we go.
All right. I'm going to wrap this
this
episode
was not
up.
what we said it was gonna be.
This was just like the what's it called? The extra on the album.
The bonus track.
Bonus track.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Heather, that was awesome. Thanks for making sure we brought that up.
Yeah, that was a really good conversation. And we'd love to hear, too, what other people think on this, right? Do you guys relate with Heather and I on that? Or anyway, we are next time. We are going to do a rapid fire question with Andrew. So we'll be back next week.
That's all for today's honest conversation.